Hey guys, welcome to another horror games episode. Today it's going to be on the Wii. Now when a lot of people think of the Wii, they don't think of horror games. They think of Mario and Zelda and a bunch of shovelware crap games that, no one really wants to play. But there's actually quite a few titles on the Wii in the horror genre, and some really decent ones that I enjoyed a lot. So here we go. First up is the series that's probably best represented on the Wii in the horror genre, and that's going to be Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4 came out first on the GameCube, then the PS2, and then they ported it over to the Wii. Now the Wii version has all the extra stuff that the PS2 version had, and then it also, obviously, you can use the Wii remote to shoot by pointing at the screen, and you can use a classic controller if you don't want to play in that other style. Now they also have some on-rails first-person shooter games. There's Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, and then the sequel to that was Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. Now this is like the special edition version that they put out after the game came out. It came with a Magnum and a little Bowie knife. Now the Magnum you clip the Wii remote in, and the knife you clip your nunchuck in. And they were sort of advertising both on-rail shooter Resident Evils in here. They had for the Umbrella Chronicles was the knife, and for Dark Side Chronicles was the Magnum. Now there was a special gun package like this that came out for when just Umbrella Chronicles came out, but they were packaged separately together in a big plastic like clamshell. So once you open it up, you couldn't seal them back up, and they were just two separate items. I like to get the collectible stuff with a game when the game is in the box with it like this. Now they also put out Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil original remake that was originally on the GameCube on the Wii, but they didn't add really anything to the games at all. You could play them with a Wii remote, but they didn't actually incorporate any new control features like with Resident Evil 4, where you actually point the controller and shoot, motion-wise. It wasn't like that for the Resident Evil and Resident Evil 0 remakes. They were just, you could use a Wii remote to play them, so I didn't pick those up. I still own those on the GameCube. These next couple of games are my least favorite horror games on the Wii, and probably a lot of other people's too. Ju-On the Grudge, Haunted House Simulator. It's a very, very slow-moving game. You don't have full control over the character. You can tell it what direction to go in, but all the pacing and stuff is basically just whatever the game wants it to be at that time. You do a lot of just sort of room or scene viewing, and then something will pop up. So the title of the Haunted House Simulator part describes it pretty well. You're basically just standing, waiting for something to trigger, and then moving on to the next part, and then waiting for something to be triggered to jump out and scare you. If you play it in a group of like 3 or 4 people, normally you can sit there and laugh at it, and there's always one person that'll be a little bit scared of every single thing that happens. But it's in general, it's more for kind of silly horror laughs than actually being afraid. A lot of little boy and girl ghosts, and if you ever saw the movie The Grudge, hence Ju-On the Grudge, you kind of know what to expect, at least a little bit, in the sense of the ghosts and the characters in the game. Now the other one is Calling. And Calling is a little bit better than Ju-On. You actually have a little bit more control of your character. You see the game through basically 4 different characters, and I would say everything's pretty decent with it for a normal horror game, except a lot of the voices, some of the ghosts and just the voice acting is really bad, and it's hard to even get into it at all to be even remotely scared, because they're really not done very well. But yeah, these two are for if you really want to see every aspect of horror on the Wii, maybe check them out. Or if you don't want to be scared too much, just sort of a little bit, or for a younger kid or something like that, then maybe check these games out. Here's another pairing of horror games for you. We've got House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return, and House of the Dead Overkill. Now, House of the Dead 2 and 3 have been released on other systems and in the arcade. It's a first-person on-rails shooting action. Not fantastic graphics, but House of the Dead games have never been about amazing graphics or anything. You can play up to 2 people, and it's just blasting your way through a bunch of zombies and mutants coming at you. It's not so much of a horror game, but I'm including it in this just because it had zombies and there are a few intense parts to it. Real fun, mindless shooting action. House of the Dead Overkill. A little bit unique for the series. It had a grindhouse, gritty movie like feel to it. It says the word fuck so many times in this game. I know I saw one time someone had counted how many times, but it's a ridiculous amount. It earns its M rating very well. It's another 2-player co-op for the campaign, and then you can play up to 4 players for some mini games in there. But yeah, both of these are just great multiplayer horror games on the Wii. This game comes from my favorite video game series. It is Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Now this one in the series is probably the most unique and has the most mixed opinions and reviews from fans. Now, you don't really battle anything in this game. You basically run away from all the enemies, which was one of the main complaints from a lot of people. The story is very, very unique. By the end of the game, it basically could possibly rewrite how the first 3 games in the series even went down, which was what my favorite part of this game was just the story. It has a lot of exploration in it. Not, like, because you're not doing much fighting, you're mainly just wandering around, looking for things and trying to continue the story. And they put a ice effect into the game where when it sort of went into, like, the other world, everything got covered in ice, which was very different from the series as well. It's the only game that featured anything like that. This also came out on the PSP and PS2. I still enjoyed it. I thought that the story was strong enough where it kind of held its own, but like I said, a lot of people sort of have mixed opinions on it, and it's not a lot of people's favorite Silent Hill game. This next game is one I just got recently, actually ordered online from Europe. It is Project Zero 2 Wii Edition. Now this is Fatal Frame 2 for what was called in America. Now they redid this in Japan and in Europe, but it didn't come out in America, so that's why I had to buy the European copy. It is redone with a over-the-shoulder Resident Evil 4 style view for the entire game. The original Fatal Frame 2 was a lot of fixed cameras, positions where you could see the character sort of running towards the camera, or where the camera would be above. Well, this is all over the shoulder, so it plays very differently. It is technically the same game, but just set up different. It also has a haunted house mode in it, which is similar to sort of that Ju-On or the Calling type of gameplay. I have not got a chance to play this yet, but just trying to find horror games these days in America is hard. There's not really a lot that release anymore, so kind of got to go overseas for ones that maybe don't come out here. We never got Fatal Frame 4 in America, and then they put out a game on the 3DS called Spirit Camera, which was nothing like any of the Fatal Frames, unfortunately. But if you have Spirit Camera on the 3DS and you have Project Zero 2 on the Wii, they're actually compatible. There's an AR marker on the back side of this manual that you can scan and use in the game. So that function's kind of cool, at least, but haven't got a chance to play it yet, so can't give you too many opinions on the new camera angle yet. Cursed Mountain is an interesting game in the horror genre. It takes place in the Himalayan mountains. Your main enemies are these ghosts, these spirits that live on the mountain in the villages. You're tracking down your brother who has gone missing. Basically, he has done some stuff that has upset these spirits, and your job is to try to find him. It has some unique controls where you use the Wii remote to do certain symbols to do attacks. It was just a very different style horror game. Since you're in the Himalayan mountains, there's like altitude sickness, and it's hard to breathe for your character at times, which plays a part into the gameplay. I got all the way to the end, got right up to the last boss, and I think I tried about 4 or 5 times, and I couldn't beat him, so I sort of put the game on hold, and I never went back. I really want to go back because I enjoyed this game. It's different. It's not zombies, and even the ghosts and stuff in it, which ghosts have been done in other horror games, obviously, are just sort of a different feel. And being on the mountains in the snow, and nothing around is sort of creepy as well. So I like this game a lot. You should check out Cursed Mountain if you want a little something different. Alone in the Dark was a reboot of the franchise that came out on the Wii, the PS2, and the 360. And then it was later ported to the PS3 as Alone in the Dark Inferno. Now, the 360 version and the PS3 version are very similar to each other. They're basically the same game, but the Wii and PS2 versions are very, very different. Obviously, those systems are far inferior in graphical capabilities, so they weren't able to really make them look the same or have a lot of the same elements that the 360 and PS3 versions do. It's very cheap. You can get the Wii version for under $5. It's farther down the totem pole of horror games to check out on the Wii, but the reason why I picked it up in the first place was not only they didn't have to cut stuff out, but they actually added some stuff into the game that isn't in the 360 and PS3 versions, some different areas. So if you liked the the 360 PS3 versions, even though they had mixed reviews, I still did enjoy them. I think there was a lot of really unique ideas and aspects that were added in those games that I hadn't really seen before. So if you've played those and you enjoyed them at least a little bit, maybe give the Wii version a check out just to see sort of that, oh, look what they did here instead because they couldn't do it on this system. But yeah, farther down on the list of games to check out in the horror genre on the Wii. And lastly, we have Dead Rising: Chop Till You Drop. Now, this was sort of a remake, re-envisioning of the original Dead Rising that was on the Xbox 360. They had to cut out quite a bit for this version. In the main original release, your character's a photographer, and there's a lot of aspects of the game that involve around his taking pictures. Now, in the Wii version, they cut that completely out. They had said, if I remember something about, it was just going to be too hard to add in that whole picture-taking element into the Wii version. It just wouldn't have worked as well. They also had to remove a lot of the zombies from the game. Dead Rising's famous for having hundreds of zombies on the screen at the same time, and you can basically climb on top of them and run on top of them like just a huge crowd. Now, they still have quite a bit on the screen, but I would say it's more in the dozens than definitely in the hundreds. And there's other elements that they had to take out too, just for basically graphical and processing power issues. But it's still fun. It's goofy. It's one of those ones that kind of don't really fit into the horror aspect. You're not really probably going to get scared while playing it, but it still features zombies, and you're still chopping them up and shooting them and stuff. So still a good game. But if you can, check out the 360 version, or now you can get Dead Rising 2 or Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, which features Frank West from the original game. Alright guys, that is it. Thank you for watching another horror games video. I appreciate it very much. Give me some thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me some comments, and I will see you guys later. Till next time, peace.